It's Red Eye Radio. Talk about everything from politics to social issues and news of the day. Whether you're up late or you're just starting your day, welcome to the show. From the Uniden America Studios. For Gary McNamara and Eric Harley, Dan Mandis, this is Red Eye Radio.
866-90-RED-EYE is the phone number, 866-907-3339. Thank you very much for joining us, and I'm using my text line that I typically have for my morning show in Nashville, Tennessee. So if you want to text into the show, you can. 615-737-9986, 615-737-9986. Getting a lot of great text messages from all across the country. People are asking me a little bit more about Aftyn Behn and why exactly it is that this 7th congressional race is so important here in Middle Tennessee. So it is a special election. I'm going to get to a lot of the various aspects of this because, you know, really, I would say that part of the future of Donald Trump's next 2 years could be on the line. And I got to tell you, if you are a conservative and she actually ends up winning this 7th congressional district, this would be, and some people are saying this would be, a 5-alarm fire. So how important is it? Well, it is so important that none other than J.D. Vance is coming to Middle Tennessee. Apparently, the vice president is going to be in Nashville today. And so Aftyn Behn was asked about this. He was doing a podcast with none other than Jim Acosta, live from his basement, apparently. And this is what he and Aftyn Behn had to say about this. Listen close.
You were saying, before we got started, you were saying that J.D. Vance, is that right? J.D. Vance is coming to your district to campaign on behalf of your opponent tomorrow?
Yeah, so Trump had a telethon hall for my opponent. And it was very strange hearing Trump say your name. I was hoping he
said your name?
Oh, yeah, twice. I was hoping he'd say something like, she is way less cute than my daughter, Ivanka. She's not a real blonde. No,
that's a good Trump.
Thank you. I thought it was going to be funny. It wasn't. But so they brought in the big dogs because Trump can't afford to lose another district. J.D. Vance is coming to Fort Campbell, which is obviously a base for military families tomorrow. And so the cavalry is being called in because this race has unforeseen become quite close.
I mean, if they're bringing J.D. Vance in, you know, that's something else. Ladies and gentlemen, hide your sofas. I'm just kidding. That's just.
Yeah. And there's just a lot of, I've been grateful. I've welcomed the support and attention from folks in our race nationally, especially since Tennessee's often a state that's overlooked, right?
So you know what's so funny about this is that J.D. Vance is coming in to endorse and support Matt Van Epps. Do you know what happened? This is stuff that maybe only people from inside the district and inside Middle Tennessee might know. But do you know what happened when Kamala Harris came to Middle Tennessee to appear on the same stage with Aftyn Behn? Not only would Kamala Harris not appear with Aftyn Behn on stage, but she wouldn't endorse her either. What does that tell you about Aftyn Behn? That she could not get the endorsement of Kamala Harris, or the fact that they never appeared on the same stage together. Kamala Harris, I kid you not, she came to Middle Tennessee. She came to Nashville. And she wouldn't appear on the stage with Aftyn Behn. Now, the question is why? And honestly, for me, not entirely certain what happened there. But by and large, if Aftyn Behn is so radical that they didn't want that radical stink on Kamala Harris, who is her own kind of crazy, as you all know, well, then I don't know. I don't know what to say about it. Other than I think that there's a lot bad going on with Aftyn Behn. I think part of what happened is that they knew, the Kamala Harris people knew, because Kamala Harris, she thinks she's going to run for president in 2028. This is inside politics. But Kamala Harris considering running in 2028. So does she really want to endorse someone like an Aftyn Behn for Tennessee's 7th Congressional District, who is I mean, unhinged? I'm going to give you an example. So that was, I guess, with Aftyn Behn and Jim Acosta, right? So whatever. I also want to play this. People are asking me about this on that text line, 615-737-9986. Are you going to play the audio where she's being dragged out of the governor's office? Okay. So this is where the crazy really does get real. Aftyn Behn, she was a activist before she worked in the state legislature. So she was, somebody who was always screaming at state lawmakers, and she's always doing all of this, just this absolute crazy. Now, if you want to go find me on the socials at Dan Mandis Show, this is on my X feed. There is a video. It's a minute 12. This is where, again, the true crazy comes out with Aftyn Behn, where she is, I kid you not, running full sprint into the open door of Tennessee Governor Bill Lee. And she starts screaming. Listen to this. Yeah, she's screaming. She's screaming. Are you okay? She's wearing, what do you call it, like a skirt, you know what I mean? And so these two big old state troopers, I'm laughing, these big burly state troopers, and they grab her. One trooper grabs one arm, another trooper grabs another arm, and they just drag her out. They literally drag her out. And then she starts sobbing.
Completely unnecessary.
A friend of Aftyn's. That was completely unnecessary. And now they're yelling at her as she is sobbing in the hallway.
Y'all should be ashamed.
Y'all should be ashamed, she says. Aftyn Behn is the one that ran full sprint into the governor's office. She's lucky she didn't get shot. And so then, because listen, there is a lot of performance going on here, a lot of political theatrics going on here, right? Because people like Aftyn Behn running for the 7th, the special congressional district and the special election, she's younger, she's 35-ish, and she lives her entire life on Instagram and all that. And so the camera goes right up to her, and she's crying in the middle of the state capitol. Yeah. She's got her head buried in her elbow and her face buried in her elbow. She's crying, wiping the tears away. And so if you want to go see that, just find me on X at Dan Mandis Show. You got to scroll down a little bit because, we call her here in Tennessee. I call her Psycho Aftyn. Other people call her Aftyn Insane. Either one works. I'm going to be honest with you. Either one works. There was another moment. Let me see if I can find it real quick. Here it is. There is another moment where Aftyn, before she was in the state legislature,
Here today on behalf of communities that use violence.
she is in the balcony of the Tennessee state legislature yelling at state lawmakers.
You have to stop any accountability. You deserve to be taken.
And she wouldn't stop.
For people of color.
And people are getting really angry because it's a very Republican state legislature. Oh, here comes the security. Listen to how crazy and unhinged. Yeah, so I wish you could see it. Please go follow me on X at Dan Mandis Show because this was a few years ago, screaming at the top of her lungs in the State House in that resurfaced footage from 2019. Now, there's a lot of video out there. But, I think that for the American people, I think that what Aftyn Behn really does represent is just the lunacy of the left. And how far into this goes beyond, what's the best way to put this? This goes beyond just policy. This goes to unhinged behavior. And that's a problem. Now, the crazy thing is the Democrats, they don't necessarily seem to care about these things. They just want to say, hey, you know what? We don't care about what is going on with policy. It's all about theatrics. We can all, obviously disagree on policy, right? We could disagree on policy. But what do you do with a person who screams at the top of her lungs in a state legislature or storms the office of the governor? She could have got shot again. And then, of course, for her to sit on her knees in the middle of the state legislature, in the middle of the state capitol building crying. What do they say? FAFO? That's what she dealt with, FAFO. There's also another one, and I thought this was interesting, where she spoke about how she does not want children. What she actually wants is power. And I know you'll be shocked to know that this first audio bite, the first few seconds, is her, Aftyn Behn, talking about her conversations with her therapist.
My therapist always asks me to transcribe my dreams when they happen. And the recurring dream I've had is standing up in a cafeteria full of women. I don't know why I was there or whatever. And saying, I don't want children, I want power. And just screaming it at the top of my lungs. And for someone who grew up with my mother telling me never have kids because you will, you'll have to give up a lot. You'll have to sacrifice professionally, which is what she was saying. And where I am now with seeing the consequences and the ramifications of women having kids and being in the political field and what they're able to achieve, because we don't offer, it's like the political field hasn't met the challenge of working moms. They really haven't. But also the deeply patriarchal structures that these women are involved with because they've chosen marriage and they've chosen to raise children. And I think
so you're hearing what she's saying, right? So what Aftyn is saying is that women who decide to have babies are part of this deeply patriarchal structure of the South.
In the South, it's incredibly difficult to shake those, especially if you've grown up here and that's all you've been told is the definition of success. The metric of success is how many kids you have, the bigger the square footage of your house, and where your kids go to school.
So I will say that a man who has lived in the South for many years now, that is not how the South is defined. Now, the South is very pro-family. That is most certainly the case. But there's a lot of parts to this. Part of what she said, and you just heard her, where she says that you do have these women who have been held back by having babies, and she wants power. She doesn't want babies, and all that, and that's fine if that's what she wants. If she wants power and not babies, I don't begrudge her for that. But to talk about how this is part of some sort of a patriarchal structure, and if you're having babies, then you are siding with the patriarchy, that is just absolutely insane. Because you have Tennessee that is full of women who have had babies, who have also been very, very successful in politics. Our own Senator Marsha Blackburn has a couple of kids and some grandkids as well. She's going to possibly be governor. She's been a senator. She's been a state lawmaker as well. She's been a congressperson for years. I mean, I could go on down the line. I spent an entire segment talking about this earlier today in Nashville. So suffice to say that Aftyn Behn doesn't like a number of things. She doesn't like the state of Tennessee. Remember, this whole thing started most recently when she was caught on tape saying that she hates country music. She hates Tennessee, and she hates the bridal showers, parties that come into Tennessee, all of that. She hates the area that she wants to represent. Then all of these other videos and all of this other audio started coming out as well. And so she is truly being painted as the lunatic that she is. And also she is absolutely wrong on, I believe, literally every single policy issue. 866-90-RED-EYE is the phone number. We'll return next on Red Eye Radio.
Brought to you by FPPF, Fuel Power Max.
Owner-operators with authority generally have two options when it comes to sourcing freight. Brokers on the spot market or directly from the source, the shipper. As any trucker with relatively recent experience with spot freight knows, the highs of working the load boards can be really high. On the other side of that coin, however, when the market flips in favor of shippers, it can be tough to keep your business afloat working with brokers. The smallest carriers with direct customers, however, can hang on through tough times or even prosper as long as demand for their customers' product remains at least somewhat stable. Owner-operators in it for the long haul make direct business with customers a principal goal. Owner-Operator Business 101 is provided by Overdrive's Partners in Business program. Go to overdriveonline.com to the Partners in Business section of the website for more detail on this and many other topics.
Brought to you by Shell Rotella, with advanced synthetic technology is designed to help keep your rig running with more mileage and less maintenance.
Lines open for your calls. 866-90-RED-EYE on Red Eye Radio.
Radio 866-90-RED-EYE 866-907-3339. I'm starting to feel guilty because I feel like on the network I'm doing more Aftyn Behn content than I should. But I mean, for a talk show host, this is an embarrassment of riches. Listen to this headline, and then I promise you in the next 30 minutes I'm not going to do anything on Aftyn Behn. Do you know what she said one time? This is the headline, again, from the Washington Free Beacon. Democrat nominee in Tennessee special election called on white candidates to forfeit to minority opponents, then knocked out a black rival. I kid you not. So Aftyn Behn is white, and one of the things that she said was, is my voice more important than a minority candidate? Well, apparently she thinks that it is because she refused to follow her own demand and step aside when she won the primary. But you see, this is how insane this woman is. Where she's just, okay, you know what? If you are running, if you're a white person and you're running against a minority opponent, you need to drop out of the race because you're white. So I think what's going on, what we know about Aftyn is that she hates Nashville. She hates America. She hates country music and everything that makes Nashville great, which is part of the district that she wants to represent. And apparently she hates herself because she's got maybe that white guilt going on. Here's what she said. This was on a since deleted X post on June 6th of 2020. I'm probably going to be trolled for this, but if you are a white man running in a primary with a progressive POC, person of color, I challenge you to ask yourself in this moment, is my voice more important? And if you think it is, then your campaign is more about you than your policy agenda, Behn wrote in a since deleted X post on June 6th. Of 2020. You know, I shudder to think as we get close to the December 2nd voting date, what else we're going to find out about Aftyn Behn.
You're listening to Red Eye Radio from the Uniden America Studios.
It is Red Eye Radio, 86690 Red Eye is the phone number. Bill is calling from Los Angeles. Bill, thanks for calling in. Go ahead.
Oh, hi, Dan. Hey, actually, I'm glad you played those kind of lunatic examples of that woman, because I think a lot of employers have a stereotype that's based on some reality that American students think like that.
Yeah, well, certainly liberal students think like that. And, Bill, that's actually a great point, because part of the dynamic of what is going on in America today is that we have these students that are being radicalized in the colleges. And so, and I don't know, let me Google that real quick. I'm not sure where Aftyn Behn went to school, E-A-H-N, but she clearly has been radicalized somewhere. I think her parents are radical too. So, but you're right. And I think that is what kids today, if you're conservative, that's the kind of stuff that they're dealing with when they go to college. And that's why I'm such a big proponent of trade schools, Bill.
Yeah, I used to write a column on education for the LA Times back in the late 90s, and I was a public school teacher for a while. And I've been tutoring kids in the private sector since. And I started tutoring foreign students partly for the same reason that a lot of the American students had this sense of entitlement that was just, they're, frankly, a bunch of spoiled brats in many cases. And for a time, at least, the foreign students that I was working with, mainly from Korea, did not have that attitude. So they were much more business oriented. I mean, they wanted to learn things, and they weren't so narcissistic. Now, that is changing as they become Americanized. But I think employers, when they think, hey, do I want to deal with this DEI nutcase who's just a narcissist and has all these demands, or do I want to deal with somebody who's really appreciative of having a job? And I frankly don't blame employers for wanting to find any excuse not to hire some of these liberal arts nutcases.
You're right. And I'm actually looking up Aftyn Behn. What I did know is that she was a community organizer, i.e. Obama, right? So she was a community organizer. She graduated from the Webb School of Knoxville, Tennessee, which is one of these highfalutin private schools. She also earned her liberal arts degree. It's liberal arts and psychology from the University of Texas at Austin in 2012. So, I mean, she has that, liberal arts degree and the rest of it. So, yeah, she is clearly one of these folks, stereotypical, in my opinion, from the left. And, it's interesting, Bill. I'm sure that we're talking about this in Nashville, of course. This is a local issue that is of national importance, and so a lot of people are talking about this. But I posed the question because somebody called up and said, "Do you really think that the Democrats would come out and vote for that?" And I was floored that the person would actually ask me that question. Of course they would. They voted for this guy, Jay Jones in Virginia, who wanted to be and is now going to be the attorney general, the guy that texted in text messages that he wanted to kill Republican children and urinate on their graves. So, yeah.
Well, I think the key term there that you used is psychology. And I think you're old enough to remember the psychological self-esteem movement that started in the mid-'80s. And this is, in my opinion, this is at the root of a lot of this craziness and this narcissism that the whole world, kids are being taught, they've been taught for years, that their self-esteem is all that matters in this universe, and that the whole universe revolves around that, and that nobody has the right to take that away, and you better punish them if they do. So I think that, I'm glad you mentioned her psychology background, because that explains a lot.
Do you know, Bill, there are people out there, how do you feel about this? Because I'm kind of right there, where it's the everybody gets a trophy mentality, right? So this kind of behavior and the kind of behavior that you're talking about, it stems from the everybody gets a trophy mentality that, yeah, I did live through all of that in the 80s.
So your question then specifically is how I feel about.
Do you think the everybody gets a trophy mentality is ultimately what led to, all of that, our feelings are so important. That leads to this this focus on everybody's feelings, and then that leads to this kind of abhorrent behavior.
Right. In other words, there's no such thing as a loser. Everybody's a winner, right?
Yeah. Yep. Yeah. I think that's part of it. And Bill, I appreciate the call. So I work with me here, friends. So during the, I don't remember what year, I'm gonna grok this. I've got grok up right now. What year was the everybody gets a trophy I don't know, drive, whatever? Because I think wasn't that in the mid 80s? No, it wasn't 2015. It was early. I think it was earlier than that. Whatever. So, you know what? When you get old, you forget all time, but all sense of time. But when people talk about the everybody gets a trophy mentality, what they're ultimately were doing, as Bill was saying, you're hyper focused on the feelings of children. And so then when everybody's catering to the feelings of children, then they grow up and they become intolerable adults like Aftyn Behn or a lot of these other leftists who it's just, me, and everything's got to be my way and everything's got to be about feelings in all of that nonsense. And that's what happens. And now we have this entire generation where, everything they do is on social media. Follow me on X, Facebook, and Twitter, and also Instagram at Dan Mandis Show. I'm right there with them. But they're hyper-focused on their feelings. They're hyper-focused on everything is about them. And as Bill was saying, working with not all of them, but working with some of these, younger generation, 18, 19, 20, 22, 23, working with them can be really difficult. And you people that work in an office, you know exactly what I'm talking about, because working with some of these younger adults where they are so incredibly self-absorbed and everything has to be done their way and they're more concerned with their feelings than the bottom line of the company, that makes it tremendously difficult. By the way, speaking of turkeys, did you hear Donald Trump? This was yesterday. He was in rare form. So, it's the whole turkey pardon thing. Listen to this. This is Donald Trump, and he is talking about the pardoning of the turkeys. And somehow Donald Trump managed to work in not only the pardoning of the turkeys, but Joe Biden and his auto pen. Listen to this.
But before going any further, I want to make an important announcement, because you remember last year, after a thorough and very rigorous investigation by Pam Bondi and all of the people at Department of Justice, the FBI, the CIA, the White House counsel's office, and the Department of Everything. We have a Department of Everything. You know what that is? I think that's called the White House.
Mm-hmm.
Into a terrible situation caused by a man named Sleepy Joe Biden. He used an auto pen last year for the turkey's pardon. So I have the official duty to determine, and I have determined that last year's turkey pardons are totally invalid.
There you go.
As are the pardons of about every other person that was pardoned other than, where's Hunter? No, Hunter's was good. That was the one pardon, Pam, that was good, right? The rest of them are all invalid. I don't know what the hell you're going to do about that, but that's now we're going to take a little of the joking. That is a mess. But they're hereby null and void. The turkeys known as Peach and Blossom last year have been located, and they were on their way to be processed, in other words, to be killed. But I have stopped that journey, and I am officially pardoning them, and they will not be served for Thanksgiving dinner. We saved them in the nick of time. This one has plenty of time, but they were saved in the nick of time.
There you go. Donald Trump making fun of Joe Biden and the auto pen. Again, the president seems like he is in some pretty good moods these days, despite the fact that there is a lot of consternation within the Republican Party. And one of the things, let me see if I can find it real quick, because I thought it was interesting. Harry Enton, of course, I'm a big fan of Harry Enton. And he was talking about where Donald Trump is right now as far as his support and his popularity within the Republican Party. And I was actually really surprised when I saw this. I'm going to share that with you coming up next. By the way, the phone number, 866-90-RED-EYE. If you want to text the show, you can. I'm using my text line for that I usually use for my morning show in Nashville, Tennessee, 615-737-9986. If you want to text me, you can. And by popular demand, a lot of people have asked over the years, can you give us a studio tour? Because when I do Red Eye, I broadcast from home in my home studio where I do a lot of work, a lot of shows, and then I drive into the radio station to do my morning show in Nashville. So I've taken a video of my home studio here tonight. So if you want to see it, we got the Christmas tree up, we've got the faux fireplace going strong, and if you want to see it, you can. It's on my Facebook page. Follow me on Facebook, X, and also Instagram. And we'll return next on Red Eye Radio.
Get in touch with Red Eye Radio, toll free at 866-90-RED-EYE.
Red Eye Radio. If you want to text the show, you can, 615-737-9986. I'm such a big fan of Harry Enten over there at CNN because he's always so excited about the stats. He's like the data guru. And he wanted to know, where is Donald Trump's popularity at this point in term number 2? And he compared it with George W. Bush in his second term and Barack Obama in his second term. I love this.
So is the president losing Republicans?
No. Look, this is still Donald Trump's Republican Party, and we can see it here. It's like a rock, to quote Bob Seger. I mean, take a look here. Republicans who approve of Trump. 6 months ago, it was 87%. Now, well, hello, it's the same number. It's 87%. He has not lost any support among Republicans compared to 6 months ago. As I said at the beginning, he's like a rock. He's like a rock. The Republican base is sticking by Donald Trump at this point in time.
It really isn't.
You know what's interesting is that there's been a lot of talk about how there has been some consternation within the Republican Party. You've got MAGA versus America First, Marjorie Taylor Greene versus Trump, and all of that. So I was surprised to see this, and I have a deep respect for Harry Enten. I really do. I think he's great. If you look at his background, you'll see why he is someone that does command respect, because he doesn't politicize the numbers. He is a total data cruncher. And so I guess my question, and we're almost out of time here for this hour, but send me a text at 615-737-9986 or just tweet at me or whatever, at Dan Mandis Show. Do you believe Harry Enten's numbers? Do you believe that Donald Trump's approval rating or support within the Republican Party has not gone down in the last 6 months?
Interesting to watch his overall approval rating go down, 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 but see this be completely constant here.
It is among independents. It is not among Republicans.
Okay, so how does this compare to past presidents in a second term?
Yeah, okay. I think this gives the game away, right? Which is Donald Trump, if you look at 21st century presidents' own party approval at this point in term 2, who leads the pack? It's Donald John Trump. 87% of Republicans approve of Donald John Trump. You go back to 2013, 78% of Democrats supported Barack Obama, and it was 78% of Republicans who supported George W. Bush back in 2005 at this point. So Donald Trump has the biggest own party, highest own party approval of any president who served their entire second term in the 21st century.
You could look at this.
How angry, because you know how I don't think W cares, but Obama, he is a certifiable narcissist, right? How pissed do you think Obama is when he is sitting there watching CNN or he's on the socials, and here comes a graphic that shows that Donald Trump is at 87% within his own party's approval here in term number 2, and Obama at this time, he was only 78. And you've got all of these Democrats that are always, and listen, I don't approve of everything Donald Trump does. I've mentioned a couple of them here tonight. But The reality is that, number one, it's nice to see some Republican unity for Donald Trump. That's number one. Number two, though, you did hear Harry Enten talk about the independents. I would be a bad talk show host if I didn't mention that independence, as you folks know, is where oftentimes elections are won and lost. And so it's great that Donald Trump is still really doing well with the Republicans, but if he is losing independent support, and he is, then that is going to have serious ramifications for the midterm elections, and most certainly, obviously, for J.D. Vance if he is running in 2028, because that could spill over into J.D. Vance territory as well. Got a lot more straight ahead on Red Eye Radio.
This is Red Eye Radio on Westwood One.